So we're going to do a group project where you're going to be divided into groups, and we're going to talk about imperialism. You're going to do a little presentation as a group. No one will be forced to stand up here and give a speech, but you will be expected to participate in your group. Okay? So, imperialism. Anyone know what it is?
No. Well, I think I do.
Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Yes, sir.
It's where a country, city grows super big and becomes an imperial, huge sort of thing that like can control most of the world's supply.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, you're going in the right direction. Hunter, you want to add something?
Doesn't imperialism mean, like, basically we're bigger than everybody else and that we treat everybody else less than us?
Yeah, that's in your head alone. The book defines it as large empire, or nations create large empires by exercising economic and political control over weaker ones. Alright? So, the United States, as we remember, was an isolationist country, right? Isolationist, remember we said Europe stay out of, remember? Monroe Doctrine talking about the Western Hemisphere is the United States influence, you guys stay out, right? And we just, focus. I know it's right after lunch. So, as part of our changing our ways, we decided that we wanted to become a world power. We got these cities, we got factories, we're making all kinds of stuff. So we need to be able to get people to buy this stuff so we can get richer. So you need to control markets and stuff like that. So America had already made one step towards getting bigger. They bought Alaska. They were moving out. A bunch of planters went to Hawaii and started big plantations in Hawaii. And by the way, your question for today. If you remember, in the original Oregon Constitution, it was illegal for blacks to live in Oregon. That also included Hawaiians. Why was there a Hawaiian problem? And nobody chased anything. Think about why Oregon had a Hawaiian problem. We'll save that for a little later. Not looking yet. Okay, so the United States bought Alaska, made it a territory. So we're expanding a little bit. We've got, as you know, we've covered the continent of the United States, manifest destiny, and all that stuff. So we're doing good. So we decided that we want to expand a little bit more. So we start building a big navy. And the first place we're going to talk about is Hawaii. In Hawaii, which is a very nice place, Hawaii, there's these big plantations. Corporations went over there, they grew pineapples, stuff like that on these big plantations. They're making a lot of money. The Queen of Hawaii, Hawaii was a sovereign nation, went and said, you know what, I think I want you guys out of here. So they overthrew her with the help of the United States Navy and Marines. And we made Hawaii a territory. So that was step one in expanding. Now Hawaii is a wonderful place to visit, but it's also strategically, if you're talking about a navy, a wonderful place to control. And this is it. I'm going to cover all these things just really briefly because then you guys are going to be given your assignment and you're going to be doing the presentation on this. But I want to get kind of a general feel of this. Samoa, somewhere here.
Down at the bottom.
Down the bottom, thank you. Samoa, the United States, Britain, and I think it was Germany, all wanted ports there because, again, it was a really important place as far as strategic, and so they all negotiated with the Samoans to let them put a naval base there. Then they decided they couldn't all get along, so they all met in Paris and decided that the United States got to keep Samoa. So the Samoans were not invited to participate. Okay, so over here in China, about the same time, again, we're a little busy. If you look at the red dots, those are things that we... China was being, the British first and then other countries wanted to trade with China for basically silk was the first thing and then other goods. The Chinese demanded gold or silver in exchange for it. So this is very costly to the British and other countries, so what they did is they brought opium from India and sold it to the Chinese people, and then used that money to buy the silk and other stuff they wanted. And while they're doing this, they addicted all these Chinese people. So the Emperor of China says, you guys got to get out, and instead of that, the Europeans, the French, the Dutch, and the English, and the Germans, and the Americans all claimed cities. It's called gunboat diplomacy. They sent gunboats there to protect their cities, and they each had a city along the ocean where they could trade for the silks and stuff. They wanted and still import their drugs to pay for it. So that is how China got involved. And so then there was the Spanish. You remember our friends the Spanish? They conquered South America, Central America, okay? They were a big empire. Well, by the end of the 1800s, they are fading. They're fading, they're not very wealthy, they've lost a lot of their holdings. But they still held two big things. One was Cuba and Puerto Rico out here, and the other was the Philippine Islands. Well, suddenly in the late 1800s, the Cubans and the Filipinos both rebelled against the Spanish. So the Spanish have a real problem because they really don't have the military might to fight them. But they don't want to give up these lands. And the Filipinos based their revolution on the American Revolution. They were going to get rid of the Spanish like we got rid of the English, right? So about this time, an American battleship called the Maine was sitting in the harbor of Havana, which is the capital of Cuba, and it blew up. So we immediately blamed the Spanish with the cry, "Remember the Maine," and we declared war on Spain. And with our new navy, we fought against the Spanish, this very ancient navy, and very quickly defeated the Spanish. Cuba, we made a protectorate, and kind of given them freedom. The Philippines, we'd really like to set them free, but it's a really good place for another naval base. And so we told the Filipinos, sorry about your revolution, but you're now part of the United States. And we also got Puerto Rico, which is still part of the United States, and a bunch of other holdings from that. And we fought wars in both of those. And so that leaves us with Latin America. And this is all going on at the same period of time. Latin America, which is Central and South America, right?
No.
Okay, the United States has sent troops to Central and South America 120-some times in our history. Never really had an official war, but we, and we'll talk about this later, the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine said that the United States has the right to invade any country in the Western Hemisphere if it's in their interest. Okay? So, that the French were trying to build a canal through Panama, and they failed. So the Americans wanted to do it, and Panama was owned by the Colombians at the time. The Colombians said, you know what, we don't want you guys messing around here. We don't want American influence in our country. So the American government funded a revolution in Panama where the Panamanians overthrew the Colombians and then sold us the rights to build the Panama Canal, which works really good with our naval thing because we now have the Caribbean, we now have all these specific places, we need a way for our ships to get back and forth quickly. Okay? And then there was finally Mexico. As you remember, we acquired half of Mexico when we surrounded their capital and asked them to sell it to us. We still maintained the right to invade Mexico anytime there was something going on that we didn't like, and we continue to do that. So, a lot of different places, very little information, right? But you guys are going to come back and give me the information on these things. My point is, the United States went from a kind of isolationist, leave us alone country, to we're in everybody's business all over the world in a matter of just a few years. And this is the imperialism that we're talking about. Okay? Questions on anything that I just ran through? I know it's just kind of an overview. Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. So, tomorrow, you guys will get instructions on who's in your group, what your project is, and how to do it. This will be a visual where you're going to be doing a map sort of thing. You're also going to be doing a little presentation on your material, okay? It's going to give you a chance to show what you can do. Oh, and one more thing. Anybody figure out why you have a problem with Hawaiians in Oregon?
Is it because they had dark hair?
Nope.
Because they were afraid of the Hawaiians probably trying to post a attack on Oregon because we're close to them.
I guess it's possible, though the Hawaiians are not really known for invading a lot of people. Yes, Caleb?
Was it because they had dark skin?
Nope, no, well, you know, I mean, that of course was part of it. That's always part of it, isn't it? For the Panama Canal, if you wanted to take a ship, particularly in the days of the sailing ships, or in the days of the sailing ships, if you wanted to go from the east coast to the west coast, you had to sail all the way down around South America and back up to Oregon, okay? Now, how many people have been to the Oregon coast? All right? The wind ever blow there?
Never blows.
Never blows. What direction does it blow from?
The west?
Well, sometimes, but mainly it blows from the north, yes. When you're on the beach, the wind's coming down like this, you're looking at the ocean, you got the wind whipping down, okay? So if you're in a sailing ship, and you want to go sailing up here, it's really hard to sail a ship up the Pacific coast. So the easier way, by following the road winds, as you sail over to Hawaii, and then the winds will take you right back here. And so it's faster and easier. So sailing ships went through Hawaii. Well, now it took weeks back in the 1800s to get around here, and conditions aboard ships weren't really good, and a lot of people died. So when they got to Hawaii, there were short crew members. So they would get some young Hawaiian men, promise them all kinds of things, work on the ship, and they would sail back over to Oregon. When they got to Oregon, they'd look around and find some white guys to replace the Hawaiian guys, and they'd leave them there. And so Oregon had a problem with all these young Hawaiian guys that got dumped in places like Portland. And so there was actually it was a problem because they were unemployed, they had nothing, the culture was different, it was totally wrong. And so it caused some problems, the young men trying to do things. Anybody ever been to the Hawaii River? Southeastern Oregon? Beautiful place, beautiful place. The Hawaii was named because they found two Hawaiians who were prospecting for gold dead there, and they named the river after them because Hawaii was the pronunciation of the time. Okay, so what we see now, kind of an idea of imperialism, right? America's going to expand. Okay, America's going to expand. So, in order to do what we're going to be doing the next couple, 3-4 days, you need some vocabulary. Yeah, I know, we hate vocabulary, we don't want to learn new words because it's just a bad thing. We have some words here. Now, amazingly, these words are all in chapter 22 of your book, and since they're vocabulary words, how do we find them?
The magical blue words inside.
The magical blue, thank you, the magical blue words. This should be pretty easy to fill out. Now, I don't want you just to find the words and write them down.